Okay, what's up, people? I'm AJ. I run the MMA Nerds podcast, MMA Nerds Instagram page, and this is probably going to be my first podcast. Give it a whirl today. So I've been delaying it for a while just because I'm shitty at starting things. So here we go. Today I'm literally just going to recap, what happened over the past few weeks, or past week really. And I did a submit 10 questions thing on IG earlier today. I took 10 questions from that. I'll answer those, talk about some news, and it's just going to be short and sweet today. I don't know how long it's going to be, but I got my notes for what all happened, and we're just going to go over those. And I can't tell you how long it's going to be, but it's something. So, sorry. Everybody watched UFC Philadelphia this weekend. Gaethje got that sick KO Barboza. While that's a fantastic win, everybody's clamoring for a title shot. You're probably going to have to pump the brakes on that. You got to remember, Khabib's out till I want to say it was November because he's going to wait out his buddy's suspension for the Conor brawl. And so there's already a logjam. Tony was our interim champ. He got stripped of that, obviously, and then he had his situation with his apparent mental break and restraining order with his wife. He appears to be going to counseling now. So we just have to take Tony out of the equation until he's determined fit to even take a training camp and fight and gets all his family situations settled out. And his, mental health comes before fighting. So we'll take him out of the equation. So everybody's still clamoring for the Gaethje title shot. Who do we have? We have Dustin and Max fighting midway through April. They're going to fight for the interim lightweight belt because who doesn't need another interim belt in 2019? It's not like there's not enough of those going around. So if we're just talking about Gaethje, who should he fight next? He's got basically three decent options right now. I think he could wait for the loser of Max and Dustin, and that'll basically be the 1 and 2 guys if we take out Tony out of the equation, and we assume the Leprechaun stays retired. So he's got the loser. That would probably be a good matchup for him. The winner obviously has an interim title. They're obviously going to be the one waiting for Khabib when he gets back. I know Gaethje was interested in the winner of Donald and Iaquinta. They're fighting May, I want to say it was. Rankings wise, matchup wise, that would work for him. Or if the wild man does wild man things and just wants to take a fight, Paul Felder, we could have an interim violence belt. Dustin Poirier is the owner of the main violence belt right now. But most violent man interim belt, Paul Felder with Justin Gaethje would be pretty sick. I know Paul Felder asked for it at the desk after the fight. Some people got pissed off about that. But let's be real, you would have got pissy if he was calling Justin's name and then he didn't call him out in person. Dumbasses would have been saying, oh, he should have called him out in person. Well, he did it, so settle down. He's doing what people want to do. He wants the fight. It'd be a fantastic fight. That would... Oh my goodness! You think Gaethje Barboza had violence potential? I think Paul Felder Gaethje has even more. So move on from that. I'm just going to cover the top few fights from the three big cards this weekend. Jack Hermanson, he came in, he guillotined Branch in the first round. Unranked at the time, I believe. It was kind of Branch just needing a fight. It seemed like taking an unranked guy didn't work out for him. So who should he fight next? I think the UFC is probably going to give him, bottom 15 guy realistically, but Branch was number 11 when I checked the rankings right before I started this. So if we're just going to try and, in the fantasy world of rankings actually matter, since we know they don't, a fight that probably rankings wise would make some decent sense would be the winner of Derek Brunson and Elias Theodorou. They're fighting on that Ottawa card in May, the Cowboy Al card. I believe they're the co-main event. So Brunson right now, as of the time of this, is ranked number 8. Elias is 14. Assuming Brunson wins, he'll still be 8, and Jack should be somewhere up near 10 or 11 when they update the rankings. Brunson would be at 8. If Elias wins, just knowing the stupid way the rankings work, Elias would probably be bumped up to, I want to say, 11 or 12. So that would be right in the wheelhouse. That could work as a matchup. I don't see anyone in the top 10 really itching to take a fight with him because it's higher risk, lower reward for him. He'll presumably just got into the rankings after that. So other than that, there's not a lot. There's not a lot of options for him. That one makes the most sense ranking wise, so that's probably what they'll do. And probably the best KO of the night. I know Gaethje fans might be angry, but Josh Emmett destroyed Michael Johnson and just gave him all the violent sleeps. Emmett going into the fight, he's just ranked right now. He's ranked number 10. So something that could work for his next fights. Maybe we could see him fight everybody's favorite prospect right now, apparently, Zabit. I'm not even going to try the last name. You know it. Zabit's number 6 right now. I'm pretty sure he doesn't have a fight booked. The issue with both these potential matchups is going to be it would have to be guys fighting down, because I mean, there's some guys above. Emmett's only at 10 right now, so there's some guys above him who are currently booked. I was just going off at who look to be unbooked right now. If Emmett wanted, to book another fight in the next few weeks and then start, another 8-week training camp. So Zabit, that would be a fun fight, or Renato Moicano, I believe that's how you say it. He's up there at 5 right now. He's just coming off that Jose loss, so taking a top 10 but lower ranked than him fight, he could view that as a bounce back. So that might be a fight that could be made. I know Renato's trying to stay ready in shape just in case Jose pulls out of that Alexander Volkanovski fight. That's going down in Brazil on, I believe, the Rose Andrade card. Sorry. He's trying to stay in shape for that because Jose, I believe, has a some type of infection in his knee right now, and he's not 100% if he's going to make it to the fight. So Renato's staying ready for that, but if, Jose stays healthy and that doesn't pan out needing him, then Josh Emmett fight, that could work. And just the fourth fight, the last fight we'll cover from the Philadelphia card, Michelle Waterson, she got a decision over Carolina. I'm not going to butcher these names. I'm not going to do these people a disservice. Carolina. Michelle, currently, she was ranked number 9. Carolina's number 6. Someone was talking about a title shot for Michelle. You just pump the brakes, guys. I know she's a fan favorite. I know all of us, and she's done nothing wrong to irritate anybody. She's a good fighter. Pump the brakes on that a little bit. I'm gonna have to wait on that. I looked through the rankings. A fight that should make sense. I'm gonna butcher another name here, but let's just go last name, Zhang. Wiley Zhang, however you say it. She's ranked number 7 right now. She said she wants to fight this summer. Karate Hottie came out mostly, not a lot of damage out of that fight. So if she wants a quicker turnaround, if she wants the path to the title shot, if she could beat Zhang this summer, sometime around International Fight Week, just before, just after, or on International Fight Week, and then maybe you're one more fight away from a title shot. Beating Zhang will get you up to probably 6 or 5, somewhere in that neighborhood if you beat her. So I mean, that's just the quickest recap of the card. There's some decent fights. It started off mostly decisions. I know the Rey Borg fight was a little controversial to people. I missed it. I tried watching the entire card. I rarely do that nowadays, watching card top to bottom. I tried this time. I got a stomach virus from some friends at work, so that was calling during those fights. I know that Borg, it was his first fight back since I believe the Demetrius Johnson loss. That Borg may have the worst luck in MMA. He had, I want to say it was 4 fights booked since then. And, if you know anything about his son's health, his son has a condition. I believe it is related to draining of spinal fluid. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry. I believe that's what it is. So, his baby's, I believe he just turned a year old recently. The poor child's had crazy amount of surgeries. As much as I talk shit about this dude, Brennan Schaub stepped up. He helped cover some of the costs for the surgeries. I know Ariel Helwani, he's been having all the people who visit his studio in person the last few months sign a big banner, and he's currently, if not already over, auctioning that banner off, and I believe they were donating the funds from that. So I mean, Borg definitely could have used the win there. He took I believe it was a shorter notice fight against a champ from LFA, I want to say it was. And it just, wasn't his night. MMA judging, whether you think he won or lost, it was controversial for some people, but that's the way it works out. Just poor luck for Rey Borg. He was just one of the bigger names on the undercard of the fight, so I thought I'd cover that for a second. Just moving on to actually the night before UFC Philadelphia, we had Bellator 219. Brandon Gertz and Saad Awad. Gertz won that fight decision. I believe it was a pretty close fight. I caught about half of it. I don't have DAZN, and I don't have Paramount, so I'm kind of having to, sell the 7 Cs to catch up on some fights. Well, this is fun. I just realized that I fucking big ass hand clipped my keyboard and stopped the recording, mid talking about Brandon Gertz Sadawad, and I was already on to the Daniel Strauss fight. But yeah, I'll go back and check it. The Brandon Gertz, I was saying it was a close fight, decision over Sadawad, good fight. A lot of people were fans of it. I missed part of it, so on the 7 Cs, don't have DAZN, don't have Paramount right now, trying to get all that fixed. I just spent probably a good 5 minutes talking about Daniel Strauss and how proud I was, and I looked up and realized, oh, none of that recorded. So as I was saying for that, Daniel Strauss came back after a 16-month layoff. In December 2017, he had a motorcycle accident. He slid his motorcycle underneath the guardrail riding in Florida. He woke up in the hospital. Doctors told him that there was a good chance he would not be able to walk after that. And 2-3 days later, he was already up, walking, full neck brace, strapped up all the machines and everything, just being the true savage that he is. So he spent all of 2018 rehabbing. He's credited CBD a lot with helping his recovery. I remember seeing that on social media a lot. Strauss has followed me for quite a while, so I'm always a little extra bit of a fan of fighters who follow me. There's a little bit of bias there. I have no problem admitting that whatsoever. So he came back first round club and sub, as people like to say. Dropped Shane Crutchin, took his back. I want to say it was a rear. It was a rear naked choke, guillotine. I don't remember. It was quick. Someone told me bulldog, but I feel like that was wrong. I watched it, and I'm just having a stupid mind fart right now, remembering exactly what choke it was. But for him to come back, 16 months ago, he was told he may not be able to walk. Come back, dominant first round victory. It's impressive. The man deserves all the props in the world. That's a savage mentality that most of us will never even dream of having. So that was the fight I cared the most about on Bellator 219, was just seeing how he came back, hoping the best for him, and he came out, he delivered. Joe Schilling was on the card, another follower of mine, so again, more biased to liking those guys. Schilling got a decision over Keith Berry. He showed a little bit of grappling in that fight, which I know most people don't expect, coming from the world champion kickboxer, but he showed a well-rounded game. I know he got at least 110-8. It was a good fight. The problem with talking about all these Bellator fights is Bellator doesn't have rankings. They don't even do the best about keeping their roster up to date online. So it's not like I can just say, oh, Joe Schilling should fight A, B, or C next. But it seems like he's become more dedicated to taking the MMA path now over kickboxing. And so he came out and he showed some well-rounded skills that you would definitely need if that's the path he's choosing to take. And just the last, name, just to let people know, Andrei Korshkov, he picked up a decision win over Michael Jasper on the card. I want to say Korshkov was eliminated in the first round of the welterweight Grand Prix that Bellator is doing right now. I believe he fought Lima and lost that fight. So, Korshkov, always a dangerous fighter. If you watch Bellator, you saw mollywop Benson Henderson. That was one of those fights where you're like, oh, there's a reason there's weight classes. That was just a ass-whooping start to finish in that fight. So it's good to see Korshkov back in the winning pattern. He was probably, I don't know how seeds and everything work in tournaments, but out of the favorites for the welterweight tournament, he was probably in the top 3. It'd be Rory, Lima, and Korshkov would be my top 3 in there if you were just going off best guys. Switching over to one nighttime, early morning, nighttime fights, whatever you want to call it. Just covering a few of the big fights from that. Shinya Aoki, he got a first-round submission over Edouard Foyang. He won the lightweight belt. I know that was a bit of a surprise to some people. Aoki's kind of on the back nine of his career. I feel like I could say that without too many people getting irritated. So coming out main event, first-round sub, that's an impressive feat for Aoki at this point in his career. Another big fight, Angela Lee lost her bid to become a female champ. She is the atomweight champ of ONE FC, quite a few defenses under her belt. Another fighter coming back from a devastating accident. She was in a car accident where I believe she said she almost died last year. She came back. She tried to step up to strawweight and become champ, and she was denied by the strawweight champion. Sorry, again, I'm terrible at names, people. I'm sorry. Zhang Jingnane, possibly. I don't know. I'm a dumb redneck. I don't know how to pronounce all these names all the time. So she stopped her. I want to say it was the 5th round from watching it, and denied the champ. So I know Lee is what one considers one of their big stars. So it just goes to show sometimes the champ doesn't work out. The idea is to get that. The two guys most MMA fans were there to see. Mighty Mouse got a 2nd round submission over Yuya Wakamatsu. So he advances in the flyweight Grand Prix. I've been asked this question a lot. How does ONE FC's weight works? I'm just roughly off of hearing it. It's been a while since I've read it on paper. They do the hydration test. So basically, they call it the flyweight Grand Prix. You just have a bunch of flyweight fighters. They have to take a hydration test, so they have to weigh in at 135. There's been some accusations that ONE FC has some sketchier weigh-ins that aren't to the public, but the whole goal of it is you're supposed to come in hydrated. So flyweight, you have to weigh in at 135, bantamweight 140, just 10 pounds up pretty much for all the weight classes. So Mighty Mouse, they're doing they're doing the Grand Prix for flyweight. Mighty Mouse moves on, and then what was the shock to quite a few people, because of the UFC bias, just assuming there's no good fighters outside the UFC. Apparently, somehow people view it. Eddie Alvarez was beaten down in the 1st round of his fight against Timofey and Nasty Yukin. A lot of people just assumed, Eddie Alvarez, he was in the UFC, he's in Bellator, he's just going to come to one and just steamroll everybody. That was not the case. He got brutalized in the 1st round. Right before I started recording this podcast, Eddie released a statement about the fight. Picture of his eye, it looked like his eye was busted above and below the eye socket. A lot of stitches, completely swollen together. So that was probably the big shock of the night for most people. And then just the last named fight to touch on was Gary Tonin continued his undefeated record. He moved 4-0. He got a 1st round TKO of Anthony England. A lot of questions I always get about Gary Tonin is, how do you think you do in the UFC? How do you think you do in Bellator? He's had 4 fights, guys. We know he's a grand wizard in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. But as far as MMA goes, he's had 4 fights. ONE FC's, they've got him for the long haul. He's most likely going to be loyal to ONE FC. Let's just let him, let him hit the double digits before we start focusing on, can we get him traded to the UFC or something? Let him build his career. He's over there with Danaher. Danaher's turning into a wizard of an MMA coach. He's always had great work with George St. Pierre, but now he's helping Gary Tonin turn into a little MMA beast over in ONE. I do know for people like me who hate waking up ridiculously early, ONE are in the process of working on an American card. So when they finally do that, I know they want it to happen this year. They wanted it to happen last year, I believe, but it didn't. If that does happen this year, that's where most of you guys are going to get to see, on the American time zones. They'll stack that card. That'll probably be 3 title fights at minimum. They'll definitely throw Mighty Mouse and Eddie on there. If the Grand Prix are over, Gary will be on there. That'll be a card to watch. But ONE FC, there was good other fights on the card. ONE FC does know, they make some good fights off their matchups. You may not know every guy who's fighting there, but there's some bangers on those fights, on those ONE FC card. ONE Championship, I'm sorry, I forget. They go crazy if you call it ONE FC now. They changed the name apparently. So I mean, that's just the wrap up. That was the big 3 cards from this weekend. Most people probably only watched UFC Philadelphia who are listening to this, but I caught bits and pieces of all 3 cards, so that's what I decided to talk about. So as far as that goes, I believe this weekend there's no real cards in like the big promotions that everybody's immediately thinks of. There's no UFC, no Bellator. PFL is out of season right now. Invicta doesn't have a card from what I saw on ShareDog. I saw M1 Global has some fights if you're just itching for some MMA this weekend. But it's going to be a relatively calm weekend, and then it's going to pick up, after that. I believe not this upcoming weekend, next weekend is the Poirier Max card. So that's when MMA is going to start picking up again. April's a pretty busy month. This is our only break, I believe. Again, haven't checked the schedule, but I know there's quite a few cards this month. So just moving on from that, just on the debut podcast, just hammering things out, just getting feet wet on this whole podcast shit. News that got announced right before I started recording this. Scott Coker announced there's going to be a featherweight Grand Prix in Bellator. It's going to be a 16-man Grand Prix that's hopefully going to start in October, he said. I know the biggest complaints about the welterweight and the heavyweight Grand Prix were that the fights it took too long for the Grand Prix. Like, it took over a year for the heavyweight Grand Prix. So to help alleviate that now, the first round, Coker said, is all going to occur on one night. So there's going to be 16 men. So the first night of the Grand Prix, they will have 8 fights, get the entire first round completed in one night in October. That card will be on DAZN, DAZN. You know, it doesn't sound right to me either. But the card's going to be streamed on there, so you're going to need your subscription for that. From what I've seen, they do not do the free trials anymore. They just raised the price of DAZN. This is just good to know as combat sports fans, since they're picking up so many boxers as well. They just raised the price. It's going to be $20 a month now, or it's going to be a 1-year flat fee of $100, which I think that breaks down to like $8 and something a month. So realistically, that's a better deal than DAZN was before. I think DAZN was like $10 before, but $8 something a month if you do the flat out fee. I know, people like me, younger MMA fans, we don't just have an extra $100 lying around sometimes. But if you do, that's DAZN's pretty good. That you can watch all the UFC fights, or I'm sorry, all the Bellator fights, I believe, are simulcast on there. So if they're on Paramount, they're also on DAZN, and then there's DAZN exclusive cards, if I'm remembering all this right. So I mean, it's a decent deal. I know a lot of people don't want to pay for Bellator. I believe they have Canelo on DAZN for boxing now. I know there's plenty of boxing fans. So I mean, if you want to watch the Grand Prix, that's going to be the way to do it. They haven't announced any of the entrants to the Grand Prix yet. They did announce that the winner is going to get $1 million, and presumably, this is me presuming, they didn't say this, but the Grand Prix winner will most likely get a Grand Prix belt as well, like Ryan Bader did after winning the heavyweight Grand Prix. He had his lightweight belt, his heavyweight champion belt, and his heavyweight Grand Prix belt. He was triple belt status. They have not decided yet if Patricio Pitbull, the featherweight champ, will participate in the Grand Prix. He's currently scheduled to fight Michael Chandler in a little bit of a grudge match in May at lightweight. And so I think they're probably waiting to see how that fight plays out to decide whether or not he'll be entered into the Grand Prix or not. So there's no confirmation yet that the actual title for the division will be in play, like the heavyweight and welterweight belts were for their Grand Prix. That's all I have. Literally, I decided to do this today, people. I had no plans when I woke up to do this today. I was just driving for work and decided on my way home, you know what, fuck it. Let's just do it today. Start it. Starting's the hardest part. So, I mean, that's why this podcast is a little bit all over the place. I have no idea how long it's going to be. It's probably going to be like less than an hour if I had to guess. I haven't even decided yet how I'm going to upload it. So, YouTube, SoundCloud, I have no idea how to put it on iTunes, Spotify, Google, any of that stuff. So you're just going to have to bear with me. That's just going to be loading. So that's all I realistically have for like news and recaps for the past week. I'm not going to, talk. I'm going to try to stick to just talking about whatever cards are up the next week, not jumping ahead too far. So then at least each week I have something to talk about. So no upcoming cards this weekend. So I'm going to do a few personal things, like, just things I think are cool. So one thing I'm going to try to stick with is I'll make a fight recommendation for you guys to go out and watch each week. I know new fans are coming to the sport every day, so even some of these fights are only a few years old. There's a decent chance even 50% of you haven't even seen the fight yet. So I'm going to try to do that once a week. So I just wrote this down in my little book as an idea. So I think this week's recommendation, if you haven't seen it, will be go watch Dan Henderson versus Shogun Rua, the first fight. It was quite a few years back. That is an all-out war between two of the legends of the sport. I want to say that's probably in my top 3 to top 5 favorite fights in MMA history. So if you're new to the sport, or if you just want an excuse to go rewatch one of the better fights in MMA history, this week's recommendation is going to be Hendo versus Shogun 1. Moving on from that, we're getting to the tail end now. Before this started, I put out a question thing on my Instagram stories about send in 10 questions and I will answer 10 questions. I'm going to try to do this every week. I already do my weekly Q&A on Saturdays that are, just when I'm bored at the house and don't have work. That kills some time. Those aren't going to stop, but I'm also, whenever I decide to record a podcast, whatever day that is, I'm going to put a little thing up. So it'll just be, drop 10 questions, personal or MMA. I'll just randomly pick 5 of each is what I decided to do. I'll do 5, personal or kind of goofier questions. Then I'll do 5 more MMA serious questions. So a little bit of fun, a little bit of serious. That's what I try to do normally with my page. So I put that out. We had about 50 suggestions come in the first hour. So I pulled 5 of each type. So I'll just go over those now, read those out. I got those written down in my little book. So I'm just going to alternate. I've got the MMA questions on one page. I've got the personal / funnier on the right page. I'm just going to alternate one serious, one joke, and just get through them like that. So the first question that was randomly chosen for MMA was, why is Nate Diaz inactive despite his top 5 ranking before the Conor fights? And that's a really simple answer for people. It's money. Nate Diaz's stock rose a lot in those fights. The first fight obviously skyrocketed him, made him a star of the sport. The second fight did nothing but help build his brand even more. So he wants more money. The Diaz brothers, like him or not, they've always been pretty serious about we know our worth, we know what we want to be paid. You guys are underpaying us. So it's as simple as that. Nate Diaz knows he's a star now, and he's holding out for the money. I know for a lot of MMA fans, it has reached a point where it's annoying with him being out this long, but I'm not going to fault a man for knowing his worth and trying to stay out. The shit talking on Twitter does get a little bit old, but you know what? He knows his worth and he doesn't want to fight for less than that. So you kind of have to respect that. A water break. Okay. So switching over to the more personal stuff, where do you see your page in 5 years? Dude, I don't even know what I'm doing tomorrow. I don't have long-term plans. I've never been a long-term planner. I'm always a little bit more go with the flow, just see what happens. It's worked out pretty well and got me some fun situations in life. So I don't know. I didn't even expect to have a page for 5 years. When I started my page, when I started this page, I legitimately thought like a good sized page was like 500 followers. And I mean, right now I'm at 143,000. So I don't know what I'm doing at this point. I'm just riding it as the wheels fall off. So there's the answer for where do you see your page in 5 years. Back over to the MMA side, will the UFC get rid of the 10-point must system? It's not up to the UFC. Maybe some people just don't know how it works. The judges are provided by the athletic commissions. If the UFC is holding a card somewhere there's not an athletic commission, they just hire the judges from the athletic commission, kind of book of judges, and fly them over to judge the fights. But it's not up to the UFC. It's up to the state athletic commission, as long as this is a commission-based sport. So when will they get rid of 10 must? Expect to see it for a while. I know Andy Foster over at the California State Athletic Commission, I know he's pretty progressive as far as, evolving the sport goes. And I believe he'd like to see some changes to it. But, I mean, we can't even get all the states right now to update to the unified rules that have been voted on, what was it, a year and a half ago. We still have some states where a downed opponent means 3 different things. So I don't hold your breath for that. It's not in the UFC's control, it's in the athletic commission's control. So I mean, as far as will they get rid of it, they can't. It's the commission's thing. As long as we're a commission-based sport, it's not going to happen. Sorry. So over back to the personal blah 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 side. The question was most rewarding thing about having this page. And this might sound a little bit goofy. I know these guys are going to fucking shit talk me as soon as they hear this. But I've got to be pretty good friends with some people because of this page. Just like internet buddies, group chats, texting every day. I've got a group of kids from a DM I just did what are they called? Kick. I did one of those Kick group chats for a while. And I've got a group of guys that it was just the 5 who could just take the shit talking the longest. And we've been a little group chat now for like 3-4 years. I mean, I talk to them more than I talk to my best friends in real life some days. So, I mean, developing friendships like that, I've got a group chat with a bunch of other pages like mine, Blasted MMA, who now changed it to Blasted. Funny MMA's in it, Love MMA Apparel's in it, MMA Mafia's in it, As Shopped as It Gets in it. We're all pretty buddy with each other. We've had that group chat for a while. So I mean that's I would say probably the top of the list of most rewarding things that have come from having this page. Other cool shit. I mean, it's cool being able to talk to fighters in DMs, like they reach out or I reach out, and be able to talk with them. I don't think there's a lot of other sports. I don't think there's any NFL meme pages that are able to reach out to say JJ Watt and just talk with him on a daily basis. And that's part of the benefit is MMA still being a rather new sport. So I mean that is nice. That's always cool. stuff like meeting and becoming buddies with, fucking actor who was on a show I like because he follows my page. That was a cool benefit. Getting to form business relationships with people like Love MMA Apparel. I mean, he's like a brother to me now. We help each other out. I help him with his business and marketing and stuff. So, I mean, that's a cool, rewarding benefit of the page. But, I mean, just getting into joke and bullshit every day is probably, on the list, too, for somewhere as far as rewarding goes. None of my friends really watch MMA, so the whole reason I started the page was just to be able to talk about MMA. I know I say a lot of shit that pisses people off, but it's still fun to do. That's a good little release from the real world, is to just go, make some jokes, talk some shit, have some fun, bust some balls. So, I mean, there's a lot of rewarding stuff. That was a good question. I like that. That was one of my favorite questions. Like, most of these I picked randomly. I saw that question, so I 100% added that because I knew that there was a good answer for that. So, back over to the MMA side of our 10 questions for the week. If you could build a dream team of coaches if you ran an MMA gym, who'd you take? So I'm assuming we'll assume that we'll just do 3, because if I just have, unlimited budget, I'm just taking everyone. But we'll just assume to keep it to 3. I think 3 good ones. This is a little bit personal bias coming out. I'd probably get Dwayne Bang to run, be the head striking coach. He did good things with Alpha Male when he was there. He still does good things with TJ, who a lot of people are mad at right now. We'll talk about that when the drug actually comes out for his drug test. We have to wait for him to give USADA permission to release the substance. I have a educated guess on what it is, but you can't deny Dwayne did do good things with his striking. He did excellent things with Team Alpha Male striking when he was a coach there. Guys from Team Alpha Male still travel to Colorado to go train with Dwayne. I enjoy his type of striking, so if I'm building the dream team of coaches, I'm probably having Dwayne come in. That's no slide on anyone else. There's no slide on Henry Hooft, no slide on Bob Cook, any of those, Ray Longo, anyone. That's just who I would pick. That's just who I like. For the other 2, just go ahead and give me the combo of Faraz and come on, Brian, John Danaher. They have George St. Pierre. They've helped create one of the greatest fighters to ever walk the planet. Danaher has 2 of the best jiu-jitsu guys on the planet. He's got Gordon Ryan. He's got Gary Tonin. He's got Nicky Ryan. He's got a very philosophy-based approach to martial arts that seems to translate extremely well to the guys who work with him. So that seems like a good steady head to have. And then Faraz Sahabi, just as an overall MMA coach, he's probably top of the top. If we're just going as an overall MMA coach, he's probably at the top of the list on a lot of people's bios. Again, George St. Pierre, Rory McDonald, all of TriStar. TriStar does pretty well as a gym. You don't hear a lot of issues coming out of there. You see a lot of guys doing pretty well from there. He just seems like a good coach, good guy. So, I mean, dream team for coaches. Give me Dwayne, give me Faraz, give me John. Let's have some fun. Let's create some killers. Back over to the personal side for MMA. This one had to be answered, I guess, on the very first podcast. What got you into watching MMA? That one's easy. Junior year of high school. A loser in high school, a few friends decided this was going to be the one year I go to junior homecoming. Realized very quickly I do not like going to dances whatsoever. Had zero interest in going to after parties, and at our venue for the dance across the street was a Buffalo Wild Wings, and like 2 guys I was kind of buddies with said, "Oh, let's just go over there after the dance. I think there's some fights on or something." And so we convinced a few other people. Like, I decided, yeah, I'll go to that. We convinced a few other people to come over, and went over. It was pretty late. I think it was almost midnight, and it was Frankie Edgar versus Gray Maynard 3. Like, I think we walked in right as Jose was getting his hand rose from winning the fight. And so we got there, like, we didn't even have a table or anything. We just sat in the entryway and watched Frankie Gray 3, which, that was a tremendous fight. So that was kind of what got me hooked. Started, researching what it was. I came from a weird house where I didn't have, like, internet. Like, I didn't have a smartphone until I was, like, 16 or 17. So, like, parents, only, watch, like, 6, 7 channels or some shit. So it's not like I just ever stumbled across MMA before that or had the opportunity to. So started, researching that. Started going to, like, the county libraries, running, like, the DVDs and VHSs of old UFCs. Started watching those because this was before Fight Pass. And I didn't really know how to sail the 7 seas to watch old fights, if you know what I mean. So started doing all that. Started learning the ways of Yoho Yoho. Got caught up pretty quick. I've probably watched most of the UFC pay-per-views that I've ever had at one point in time. You know, one through whatever we're on what 236 or 237 or some shit now. I've watched most of those. You know, I started in the UFC 130s in that period. You know, went back, watched most of those, and then I've been watching since then. I started learning YouTube was a good friend for highlight films. I found Cowboys highlight reel pretty early on, so that had some good WC and early UFC wins. And I mean, it was pretty much hooked after that. Like, I never really liked football, baseball. I didn't like watching those sports. I liked playing baseball. I liked playing basketball, but I hated watching all those sports. So that was just like the one fight that, you know, oh, I stumbled into a bar and watched. I'm like, oh, this is what I've been waiting for my whole life to find to watch. So that's basically how that worked out for me finding that. So back to question number 4 or 5 on the MMA side. What can John Jones do to redeem himself in your eyes? Nothing. Just no. I don't like John. I'm never going to like John. I didn't even like John before all the crime stuff started. I'm never going to be a John Jones fan. There's zero issue admitting, yeah, he's one of the best fighters to ever walk the planet. There's no denying that, but I do not think he's a good person. I do not like John Jones whatsoever. I usually just try to avoid talking about him at this point. So there's nothing he can do to, you know, redeem himself in my eyes. I'm sure Hightower will get a kick out of that. There's probably a good chance he'll listen to this. We talk a lot. We just have a mutual respect of we just want to talk about John. Nothing's gonna redeem in my eyes. Call it bullheaded, call it stubborn, biased, whatever the fuck you want. I'm never gonna like John Jones. I didn't like him before the issues. I especially don't like him after the issues. So the answer for that, I know you're probably. I recognize your username. Whoever asked that question, I know you've been on my page for a while. But it's probably never going to change if we're just being realistic and honest here. So, oh well. Back to 4 out of 5 for the personals. What's that make us? We're on number 7 of 10 for this week's. Music do I like? I listen to country music. I was born in Georgia. Music was another thing my parents controlled in my life. You know, most of my life, so I was just allowed to listen to country music. I listen to country music. I listen to a little bit of AC/DC, a little bit of rap. You know, there's a little bit of Tupac. There's some Eminem. There's some Snoop Dogg. You know, just basic shit. No, I'm not in depth in anything music. I hardly even listen to music nowadays. It's more podcast and shit. I just listen to music when I'm in the shower, basically. So I mean, it's just country music. You know, Chris Stapleton, Eric Church, Sturgill Simpson. You know, all the other staples. You know, Toby Keith, Kenny Chesney, all that shit. I just have one big ass playlist. So if I have to pick a genre, which I assume is what you want, it's country is what I listen to the most. I don't listen to most of the new stuff. Like that Florida Georgia line, I saw they're real popular. I listened to that shit. That was trash. So I mean, that's the answer for that. Let's see. Last question on the MMA side for the 10 questions. This one was actually relevant. I picked this one too. How many more wins for Gaethje to get a title shot? I think I covered that earlier at the beginning a little bit when I was talking about who he should fight next. The problem is we have a log jam. We don't know what's happening with Tony Ferguson. We know he's got mental health issues outside of the fight, and he's now has legal issues based off the mental health issues. So if we remove him from the equation for the rest of the year, say it takes him the rest of the year, you know, get his stuff sorted out, get mentally healthy again, resume training. I know he's still training now, but resume seriously training when his life's back in order. Take him out. You still have Max versus Dustin for the interim title. Khabib won't be back till November. He'll presumably be ready to fight the day his suspension is over. So I'd say it's safe to assume Khabib's fighting November. If not November, they'll keep him for the big end of the year, like New Year's Eve week card, where he'll most likely be fighting the winner of Dustin versus Max. And then after that, I mean, Connor's retired, air quotes. I'm just going off the rankings in my head. I don't have them pulled up. I know Al's up there, but Al's fighting Cowboy, so the winner of that fight will be in the top 5. So realistically, Gaethje, at minimum, he'll have to take another fight at minimum. And so like I said earlier, probably if I had to guess, he'll be fighting the winner of Cowboy Al. And then after that, there's the log jam right now, so that's going to have to get settled out, and we'll have to see where Tony comes back. So at minimum, 1 fight, realistically, probably 2. I could see him fighting the winner of Al in that, and then if Tony came back, fighting the winner of Tony, and then getting a title shot if he wins that. So 1 or 2 fights if we're just being at minimum. But, I mean, it's the UFC. Fucking, I've got a poster on my wall from Alexander Gustafsson getting a title shot coming off of a knockout loss. So, I mean, it is the UFC. If they just decide, fuck it, Justin's exciting, we need someone to fill in a title shot, they could just pull him in. But if we're just going off, just assuming logic wise, it's 2 fights at most. And then one sec, water break. Last question, on the goofier, less serious side is, what top 3 fighters would you want for a road trip cross country, and what 3 fighters would you want to, I assume, be by your side in the zombie apocalypse? So this one there'll be some crossover. Zombie apocalypse, give me Tim Kennedy, Brian Stann. I know he's retired, I don't care. Give me Tim Kennedy, Brian Stann, and then maybe give me Chad Mendez. Give me I know Tim Hunts. Give me a second hunter, since there's not that many high level military guys. So that's for the zombie apocalypse. And then crossing over to who would you want in a car trip? Still give me Tim Kennedy. I know Cowboy would be pretty fun, but I've got to hang out with Cowboy a few times, so I feel like I should utilize this and get someone new. Give me Tim, Chael, and Bisping. Let's do all 3 middleweights, because that's going to get some shit talk between 3, and all 3 are rather interesting people. Michael, and all 3 of them are hilarious people just as a whole, and you're going to get some interesting stories. That'll, I'm assuming if we're doing like New York to California road trip, that's going to fly by with those 3. Another good 3, DC, Weidman, and Mighty Mouse would be interesting. That's 3 different types of folks. That's one of the better ones. That comes from Bash the Beast on Instagram. I think it's Bash_the_beast, something like that. I follow him. I believe he was the first person to ever ask me for a picture because of my page. We met at the Demetrius Johnson meet and greet. I want to say it was 2017 Super Bowl weekend when the UFC did that card in Houston, and they were doing the Metro PCS. Bash was the first person to ever ask me for a picture because of my page, and he's been following me for quite a while. I'm surprised his parents let him. That's the nice thing. His parents knew who I was when they pulled up and asked for the picture and everything. So Bash is a little savage. He's a little jiu-jitsu savage. I know he just took first place. I don't want to say his weight at a pretty big competition. I think it might have even been like a national competition. We were talking about it a few weeks ago. So he's a little savage. If you want to follow just a little jiu-jitsu savage, follow Bash the Beast. Dude, your last name I can't even begin to pronounce, so the best I can do is Bash_the_beast. He's a good little kid, loyal follower. Anything else to go over? I mean, I'm looking at the thing. We're at like 43 minutes right now. I have no idea if this audio will be good. I have no idea where I'm going to upload this audio. I hope it's going to be good. I've seen the thing peak to red a few times. I talk loud, so I'm going to have to hope the audio isn't just totally trash for that. Anything else to go over for the week? Shout out to Daniel Strauss being the savage that he was coming back. Shout out to Bash. This was, the first podcast. It's gonna be rough. It's gonna be rough for the first, quite a few, I'm assuming, just learning how to do all this. I've been kind of delaying doing it because, I don't know how to upload or anything. And then today just finally hit fuck it. At minimum, I'll record the audio today. That'll be jumping into the pool at least. It may not be the deep end, but we're in the pool at least. So after this is over, I'll save my audio. I'll try. At minimum, I should be able to upload it to YouTube first. I feel like that'll be pretty easy. I know how to throw audio onto just a video with just a image background for the 45 minutes or whatever it is. I'll try to get it on SoundCloud. I feel like that's another easy one. Everybody and their brother can be a SoundCloud rapper. If all those dum-dums can figure it out, I should be able to figure it out. iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcast, that shit's probably going to take me a little bit longer. I know I'm going to need to find some hosting services and stuff for that. So you just hang with me. I'll throw it up on YouTube and throw a link in my bio on Instagram when I do that. Oh, and now that we're at the end, I guess it would be wise to say what the name of the podcast is going to be, don't you think? So I knew this was going to be the name pretty much the day I started making the jokes. I know some of y'all fucking detest it. I know some of y'all don't understand it because you're a little edgier people and you just want to get angry about it. I'm probably going to call this podcast Just Stand Up. I love that fucking joke. It's the corniest, dumbest joke ever. But those are some of my favorite memes I've made, was the Just Stand Up, and then seeing all the people get irritated because they don't realize, we're making fun of the dummies at the bars who say this shit seriously. So Just Stand Up Podcast. I like the ring of that. I think that's got some good marketing. So we're gonna roll with that as the name for the podcast for now. I know everybody wants fighter interviews. Those will come, a little ways down the road. I've still got to learn how to do, the Skype interviews, record all that. I'm going to try to make it a little bit different. I like this 10-question format, so I might try to do, a 10-question format for the interviews instead of just rambling for 30 or 40 minutes, just asking whatever comes up on the mind, ask some different questions. I know I hear a lot of fighters get really sick of all the, same stupid ass questions. Why was this the best camp of your life? All that. I'll try to get some interesting ones, I'm a big fan of Sean Evans. His question method for hot ones is something that is pretty inspiring as far as going that direction. Even when I was younger, seeing the Dude Perfect guys, they would do 10, kind of out of the way questions, stuff like that. So it'll kind of be like I did the 10 questions on my thing today. If I'm whenever I get to start interviewing fighters, it'll probably be 5 serious ones that aren't hopefully repetitive as fuck. And then it'll, 5 goofier ones. I think that's a good format. I don't expect to be doing 3-hour podcast like Joe Rogan does. I'm not sure I can talk that long. So I'll try. If I had to guess, I'd say these will probably stick to somewhere between 30 to 45 minutes, all the way up to maybe an hour and a half at most if I'm interviewing people. I'll definitely. I've already had a few fighters tell me that they would do it. Some guys you may know, some guys you may not. I've had some. I'm definitely going to interview people with pages like mine. Everybody who has a page like mine who's in our group chat is a bit of a character, so I'll definitely interview stuff like that. I might interview a few followers, but that seems a little dangerous. Some of y'all are more savage than I am. I'm not sure I can trust y'all with a live mic. But that may be something we do rare as like a contest winner or something. We might let that happen. Saying that just reminded me. I don't know what the number's going to be yet, but I do have a 1 of 2 on the planet prize that I'm going to give away when I decide how many subscribers I get on either YouTube or iTunes or one of those. But for people who do subscribe to the YouTube channel and the podcast sources when I eventually get to them, I haven't decided the number yet. It might be like the first 1,000. I've got what I think is a pretty cool prize that's pretty original, and there's only 2 on the planet. So that'll be the special prize. I might post a picture of that later on social media. I might keep it a little bit of a secret when we start getting close to that. But I'm gonna throw this up on YouTube. Subscribe to that. I've got my MMA Nerds YouTube channel that has nothing on it. That was made just for this. So subscribe to that if you want to watch that. YouTube's gonna be the first place it's gonna be up, just because that's the place I know how to do it first. And watch it. Get some views, listen to some shit. We'll hopefully do this once a week at minimum. If it's busy weeks, we might do 2 a week. But as soon as I learn how to get on the other stuff, this is something I've wanted to do for a little while. I've had the equipment for it, and I've been, just kind of delaying on it. So I'm excited to finally get this done. And looking at the time now, we're right under 15 minutes. So I just want to say, if you actually stuck through and listened to any portion of this whatsoever, especially if you're listening all the way to now, thank you for listening. I know I'm a bit of a cunt on social media sometimes, but the people who get it. And thanks for following me. It's definitely fun. It's definitely entertaining having that page. I've definitely had a lot of shit happen because of that page that I did not expect to ever happen in life. So I am grateful for the people who follow me that, have helped build the page up to the point where it's stuff like this is going to happen. So thanks for listening to, I guess, the first episode of Just Stand Up, and I'll see you guys next week.